beloved child, do not regard this moment as a passing word of comfort that fades back into old busyness. What you are hearing is not merely gentle phrases meant to soothe a weary day, but a calling placed precisely at the crossroads of your life, where the months behind you are closing and a new season is quietly opening. There are moments I do not allow to arrive by chance. I gather the tears you once hid, the sighs you once swallowed deep within, the times you tried to be strong when no one saw, and I place them all into a sacred appointment. Therefore, do not rush to read and pass over it. Do not hurry to listen and think you have merely encountered a beautiful idea. I am touching the deepest place within you, where old cycles once held you back, where you have often wondered why you still feel tired even after trying to keep moving forward. Today, I do not come to add a temporary emotion to you. I come to awaken within you a new awareness that what I am doing does not begin with the noise outside, but with the quiet movement within, where I plant a seed strong enough to redirect the entire journey ahead. You have had days when you thought you were only surviving hour by hour, like a traveler crossing a desert with no strength left to lift your eyes toward the horizon. You laid your head down amid familiar worries, lying in your room, sitting at an old table, walking through a path you had passed through too many times, and you thought there was nothing memorable there. But I want you to understand that the place you thought was only a small and ordinary corner, I can still turn into a doorway opening toward the higher realm. You often wait for a radiant sign, a great event, a change that makes everyone notice. But the way I come to you is often gentler than the evening breeze. I come through a very subtle awakening, through a sentence that makes you pause, through a thought that rises within your heart that you have not been forgotten, through a peace that cannot be explained while circumstances have not yet changed. When you learn to stop and listen, you will realize that the space around you has never been as empty as you thought. I was already there before you even knew how to name my presence. Long ago, there was a woman named Hagar who entered the wilderness with a broken heart. She was not standing in the temple, not surrounded by songs or by people who supported her. She was simply a wounded woman, pushed outside, carrying fear and loneliness to the point where she thought her story had come to an end. In that dry place, when every hope seemed to be draining away like the water in her hand, I saw her. I did not wait for her to become strong before drawing near, nor did I require her to understand all of my plan before she could be comforted. I called her in the very midst of her turmoil, opened her eyes to see the well nearby, and let her know that the cry of the child she loved had been heard. Do you see? In the place people call the end, I can still place a beginning. In the place the human heart thinks it has been abandoned, I can still reveal that not a single tear falls outside my sight. That story is not far from you, because many times you too have sat in your own wilderness, thinking that no one truly understood what you were carrying. Yet I still saw you with a compassion that never grows weary. Therefore, my child, do not despise the quiet places where you are standing, the chair you sit on, the room you return to, the road you walk each day, even the silence between the responsibilities piled upon you, can all become the place where I open your eyes. Holy ground does not always appear with brilliant light. Sometimes holy ground is the moment you stop running from the truth that you need me. When you admit that you are tired, I do not condemn you for being weak. When you say that you no longer know how to step forward, I do not turn my face away. When you no longer have enough words to pray, I still understand the things that have not become speech. I am the Father who knows the trembling rhythm of your heart, who knows even the lines of pain carved deeply behind the smile you try to keep. And right there, I place my hand upon you, not to condemn you, but to lift you up with tenderness. Perhaps you have thought that previous seasons were only delays, brokenness, mistakes, and losses. But my beloved child, in my eyes, nothing in your life is wasted when you place it in my hands. The days you thought you were trapped in the same lesson were actually quietly forming endurance within you. The times you thought you were moving backward became the place where I taught you to distinguish between the true calling and the noise that distracts you. The long nights that made you think you had no strength left to pray were where I taught you to lean on grace instead of relying on your ability to hold yourself together. You see scattered pieces, but I see a tapestry being woven. You see a winding road, but I see the path leading you to a wider place. You see a period at the end, but I see a comma in the story. I am still writing with you. So receive this word as a gentle awakening. You no longer have to live like someone merely dragging your feet from one day to the next. Nor do you need to let the past decide the voice within you. I am opening a new vision for you. Not so you may become proud, but so you may become courageous. I want you to know that you are seen, upheld, guided, and loved with a love that does not depend on your perfection. The things that once frightened you will no longer rule you as before. Because when my light enters, darkness no longer has the right to define you. The cycles that once exhausted you will begin to lose their strength as you learn to stand in the truth that I am with you right here. Not only on the day you are strong, but also in the hour when you tremble most. And as you continue after this moment, I do not want you merely to remember that you were comforted. I want you to remember that you were called back into a deeper life. Let every small thing in your day become a place where you meet me. A slow breath, a light on the window frame, a time when you choose to forgive, a moment when you stop blaming yourself, a decision to return to peace instead of letting anxiety pull you away. I can build a bridge between heaven and your ordinary life. I can make a small room into a place full of meaning. I can turn a wilderness into a place with flowing water. I can make what you thought was an ending become the starting point of a new promise. My beloved child, open your heart and recognize this. I am not far from you. I am near. Nearer than your fear. Nearer than your painful memories. Nearer even than the sigh you have not yet spoken. And from the very place where you are standing today, I will lead you, step by step, by a kindness that never runs dry. My beloved child, there are things you call loss today that later you will call mercy. There were doors you once knocked on until your hands grew tired, where you stood outside for a long time, hoping that just one more plea would make it open. Yet I allowed it to remain silent before you. At that time, you thought I did not hear, thought I was delaying, thought I was withholding the very thing you needed most. But a day will come when the light is clear enough and your heart is at rest in wisdom. And you will bow your head and say to me, "Thank you for not letting me enter that place." Not because that place was entirely evil, and not because what you desired had no value, but because it was too small compared to what I was preparing for you. I did not refuse your blessing. I simply did not let you receive too narrow a shadow of the true blessing. I did not take something good away from you. I kept you from stopping too soon at the threshold of something higher. You often look at delay through the eyes of impatience, while I look at it through the eyes of protection. You measure timing by days and months, by opportunities, by those who have gone ahead of you, by the congratulations others receive. But I measure timing by the endurance being formed within you, by how deeply peace has taken root, by the depth of faith when you no longer see outward signs. A butterfly's wings are not opened by the urging of the one watching, but by the life that has matured inside the cocoon. If the cocoon is torn open too soon, what seems like liberation becomes injury. If the wings are not yet strong enough to meet the wind, that beauty will not fly far. Therefore, my beloved child, do not see the season of waiting as a prison. Often, it is the hidden room where I am making you strong enough to carry what you once prayed for. In the days when you are held back, I am quietly shaping you in ways the crowd cannot understand. I teach you to stand firm when everyone around you is rushing. I teach you not to use applause as the measure of your worth. I teach you not to condemn yourself because of a closed door, and not to doubt my love because of a silent season. At times you thought you were forgotten inside a dark cocoon, but right there, I was doing the deepest work, strengthening the wings within you, renewing the way you see yourself, softening the places that had grown hardened by disappointment, and placing within you a calmness you had never had before. You do not need to break the cocoon in panic. You do not need to prove that you are ready by pounding on every door. When what I have placed within you reaches maturity, the door that needs to open will open through peace, not through force. Remember the story of David when he was still in the wilderness, tending his father's sheep. In the eyes of people, that was a hidden place, without glory, without a throne, with no one lining up to acknowledge him. When the prophet came, looking for the chosen one, David was not even present at the first meeting, as though he stood outside every expectation of his family. But I did not overlook what I had placed upon him. I saw him in the pasture. I saw the days when he learned courage without an audience, saw his hands familiar with the harp and the staff, saw his heart being trained in silence before he was brought into the light. If David had stepped onto the throne on the very day he was anointed, he would not yet have been strong enough to bear the weight of kingship. So between the promise and the fulfillment, there were caves, battles, tears, and seasons in which he had to learn patience. But it was those very places that formed a king who knew how to depend on me, not merely a man whose name was called on a special day. In the same way, my child, there are promises that have touched your life. But between the promise and the day of revealing, I still allow you to walk through roads that seem slow. I do not do this to hurt you, but so that what you long for will not crush you. You may ask for a position, but I know you need a foundation. You may ask for an opportunity, but I know you need perseverance. You may ask for a relationship, but I know you need the ability to love without losing yourself. You may ask for a door, but I know that behind it are pressures you are not yet steady enough to carry. Therefore, when I close it, it is not a curse. Often it is the arm of the Father stretched across the path to say, "My beloved child, not yet, not this place, not the way I desire to give it." On the nights when you pull the curtains, turn off the lights, and lie still in a darkness no one sees, I am still there. You thought your silence was failure, thought the wordless tears had no value before me. But I know the language of tears. There are prayers that do not pass through the mouth, but go straight from a weary heart to my mercy. Do not be ashamed because you have cried. Tears do not make your faith weaker. Tears only prove that your heart is still soft, still knows how to ache, still can be sown into soil that is too dry, struggles to receive seed. But ground, moistened by tears, becomes deep and fertile, right where you thought you were weakest. I have sown discernment, wisdom, tenderness, and a new ability to recognize what comes from me and what only comes from your own haste. My beloved child, there are gifts that do not arrive before you set out, but only appear when your feet have agreed to leave the familiar place. You often want me to give you certainty first, to give you the whole map, to give you complete peace before you dare to step. But, my child, there are graces that are only opened in movement. There is support that is only recognized once you have begun to walk. There are doors that only appear after the bend in the road. And there are springs of water that only begin to flow when the staff has touched the dry ground. I do not hide from you because I want you to be confused. I am teaching you that true faith is not standing still until everything is clear, but following my voice even when the mist is still before you. What you need is not always a guarantee that makes you stop trembling, but a trust deep enough that you keep walking even when your heart still wavers slightly. Do not blame yourself because you feel confused before a major decision. That confusion does not prove you are weak, nor does it mean you have heard my voice wrongly. Sometimes that very trembling is the sign that you are standing before a real threshold, where the old is no longer wide enough for you, and the new has not yet become familiar. If you passed through a significant season with a heart completely numb, perhaps you would not have recognized the weight of that moment. But when within you there is both longing and hesitation, both a desire to move forward and a sadness over leaving the place that once sheltered you, then you are sensing the depth of transition. You are standing between two shores. One shore is what you know well. Even if it has become too narrow, the other shore is the promise I have placed before you. Larger, but not yet familiar. And right there in the middle, I do not let go of your hand. Remember that fear is often greatest before you step, not after you step. Before you place your foot down, your mind builds many scenarios, many questions, many assumptions that weary your heart. You think you will fall, think your footing will give way, think ahead there is only emptiness. But when your foot truly touches down, you will realize that the place is not as empty as you imagined. There is a firm foundation I have quietly prepared, not one that only appears when you see it, but one that was already there in my arrangement. You simply cannot verify that foundation with thought, nor can you touch it with worry. You can only know it is real when you step. There are things, I promise, that are not confirmed by you standing at a distance and looking, but by you placing your life upon my word and moving forward. Long ago, when my people stood before the Jordan River as it flowed powerfully, they were not called to wait until the waters receded before crossing. Before them was the river, behind them was the long journey, and on the other side was the land I had promised. If they had only stood on the bank discussing, measuring, and calculating, they would have forever seen the water as a barrier. But when those carrying the Ark of the Covenant placed their feet at the edge of the water, the impossible began to make way. The water stopped, a path appeared, and the whole people crossed over on dry ground. Do you see? The miracle was not given to them while they remained far from the river. The miracle was revealed when their feet touched the place that frightened them. I did not ask them to pretend the water was not deep, nor did I tell them to deny the trembling in their hearts. I simply invited them to believe that what I had spoken was greater than what they saw. In the same way, my beloved child, there are rivers in your life that will not part while you stand far away waiting for everything to be absolutely safe. There are obstacles that only move back when you obey while trembling. You do not need to feel perfectly strong in order to be called courageous. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is refusing to give fear the right to lead. The courageous can still tremble, can still feel a lump in their throat, can still walk slowly, but they do not allow trembling to become a chain around their feet. I do not want to turn your heart into stone so that you feel nothing. I want to make it shine, soft yet steady, sensitive yet not swallowed, able to feel and still follow truth. When you step, the miracle happens not only outside you, but also in the way you see the world. The sky may still be the sky of yesterday, but you will see it as wider. The road may still be the old road, but it will carry the fragrance of promise. The wind will still blow as it has on many days, but it will no longer be only a cold wind that makes you shrink back. It will become the breath of freedom, reminding you that you are being led. Circumstances may not change immediately in the first moment, but your posture has changed. From someone standing and watching in anxiety into someone walking in trust. And when the inner posture changes, you begin to recognize things that fear had once hidden. You see an opening in the place you thought was closed. You see a lesson in the place that once hurt you. You see my companionship even in the smallest steps. Therefore, do not wait until every tremor in your heart has become completely silent before you begin. Often, if you wait until you are no longer afraid at all, you will miss the season I have placed before you. I am not telling you to be reckless, nor am I telling you to rush forward in arrogance. I am teaching you to distinguish between holy caution and fear-driven delay. Caution leads you to ask, to listen, to prepare, and to walk with humility. But fear makes you circle around. Doubt yourself. Ask for another sign, and then yet another sign, until the threshold becomes the place where you build a camp. My beloved child, the threshold is not your home. It is only the place you pass through. I did not create you to stand forever between what is past and what is coming. I call you to enter the land I have prepared. Perhaps your first step is very small, so small that others do not notice it. Perhaps it is only one honest word, one decision to break away from what drains you. One time you accept responsibility, one act of forgiveness, one beginning again. One time you send out what you have been delaying. One time you open your hand and release what you are no longer called to hold. But before my eyes, that small step carries weight, because it says that you trust me more than your fear. It says you will not allow the past to decide your future. It says you are willing for grace to meet you on the road. Instead of demanding that every proof be placed in your hands beforehand, and when you step like this, I will not leave you alone in the empty space. I am the Father who goes before you to prepare the way, who walks beside you to uphold you, and who follows behind you to cover the things you have not yet understood. Then one day, you will look back at the very moment that makes you tremble today. You will smile because you recognize that it was not an abyss, but a step. It was not the place where you lost safety, but the place where you learned deeper trust. It was not the end of peace, but the beginning of a more mature peace. You will understand that I did not wait for you to stop trembling before loving you, did not wait for you to be perfect before leading you, did not wait for you to see the whole picture before calling you forward. I only need you to give me the next step. When you put your foot down, you will see that the ground was already there. When you open your heart and move forward, you will see that grace has already been waiting. And as you continue to walk with me, you will know that the greatest gift is not only the place you arrive at, but who you become along the way. My beloved child, what should make you fall silent in awe is not merely that I can forgive you after you stumble, but that before you even knew you would stumble, my mercy had already gone ahead of you. You often imagine that when you do wrong, I only then begin to look down, to weigh, to judge, and then to find a way to pull you back. But, my child, I am never surprised by the turns in your life. I had already seen your weak places, already known the roads where you might wander, already understood the immature choices you would make in fear, pride, or loneliness, and even knowing all of it, I did not withdraw my love. I did not wait for you to fall before preparing my arms. I had already opened the way home before you drifted away. I did not wait for you to damage the story before repairing it from the beginning. I had placed within that story a stream of grace deep enough to wash clean, wide enough to embrace, and enduring enough to lead you onward. Therefore, do not live as though every mistake you make forces me to revise my plan. No, my beloved child, the plan of redemption is not a backup option, nor is it a patch after brokenness. It is the song that was already in my heart from the beginning, where kindness sings louder than sin, where light was prepared to enter even the darkest rooms. When you wandered in confusion down your own path, I already knew the way that would bring you back. When you lost the purity of trust, I still kept the new robe for you. When you thought you were only worthy to stand outside in the yard, I had already prepared the feast inside the house. You thought you had to ask for each piece of grace back one by one, like a poor person standing before the storehouse door, afraid to lift your eyes. But I tell you that my forgiveness is not divided into percentages, not handed out as crumbs, according to the degree to which you punish yourself. When you return to me, you are received completely, not because you have learned to do everything right, but because I have chosen to love you with a love that is not half-hearted. Remember Peter on the night he thought he had lost everything. He had once spoken strong words, once thought he would stand firmer than the others. But when the darkness of fear came over him, he denied the one he loved. The rooster's crow that night did not only cut through the darkness, it cut through his heart. He went out and wept with the pain of someone who realized he was not as strong as he had believed. But his story did not end in those tears. After everything seemed to have fallen apart, I met him on the seashore, where the coals were burning and a meal had already been prepared. I did not call him there to crush him with shame, nor did I force him to live forever in the moment of failure. I asked him about love, and trusted him again with a calling, and opened before him a path of restoration. Do you see? Before Peter knew he would fall, I already knew the day he would rise. Before he thought he was no longer worthy to be used, I had already prepared a mission after his tears. In the same way, do not let one season of wandering become the name of your whole life. I do not look at you through your worst moment. I do not take the times you trembled, lost direction, were slow to understand, or became weak and stamp them upon you as your identity. I see you through the loving intention I placed upon you from the beginning. When you truly realize that you have been fully forgiven, the deepest change will begin, not from strained effort to prove that you are worthy, but from rest in the love that has received you. You no longer need to walk like someone carrying a debt over your head, afraid that at any moment a voice of judgment may fall upon you. You no longer need to examine every breath, every thought, every old memory, as though searching for proof that I am still angry. Gratitude will replace fear, and peace will begin to enter the hidden corners where shame once lived. My beloved child, I want you to understand that forgiveness is not merely that I do not bring up old failures. Forgiveness is that I remove the chains from the places where the past once bound you, and then open before you a new expanse of sky. Many people think forgiveness is only the wiping away of a stained page, the closing of a file, the burial of something sad. But with me, forgiveness is also the beginning of a restored journey. I do not only wipe clean the footprints behind you, I also place light upon the path ahead. I do not only close the door of shame, I also open the door of dignity. I do not only tell you that the mistake has passed, I call you to step into what you once did not dare believe you could receive. Therefore, when you are forgiven, you do not return to emptiness, but to a calling. Perhaps you are still accustomed to living with the posture of someone condemned. You hear a reminder and immediately think it is punishment. You meet a delay and think, I am punishing you for something old. You see that you are not yet perfect and fear that my love will be withdrawn. But I speak to you with the tenderness of a father. You are not called to mature under the shadow of fear, but in the light of grace. A child who always fears being cast out of the house cannot grow in freedom. That child only learns to hide. But a child who knows they are loved learns to rise, learns to change, learns to become pure, not because of panic, but because love has softened the heart. I do not use shame to teach you to walk. I use kindness to lead you into true renewal. Then you will realize that my forgiveness does not make you take wrong lightly, but gives you enough courage to face it without being swallowed by it. When you know the debt has been paid, you no longer need to pretend you have never been broken. You can call what happened by its true name. You can cry if needed. You can learn your lesson. But you no longer have to build a house in the land of self-condemnation. The past may be a place where you gain wisdom, but it is not a throne meant to rule you. Old wounds may remind you of grace, but they are not allowed to chain your hands from the future. I do not give forgiveness so that you may keep your head bowed forever in guilt. I give forgiveness so your shoulders may be straightened again, your eyes may grow bright again, and your steps may become lighter on the road I am opening. Therefore, today, let your heart stop bargaining with my mercy. Do not ask how much you have been forgiven. Do not divide grace into tiny portions and receive it timidly. You do not need to live like someone standing outside the door, hearing joy inside the house, but not daring to enter. I have called you by name. I have opened the door. I have prepared restoration not only for the day you cried, but also for the day you rise. The wind is blowing from ahead, my beloved child, not to pull you back into the old pit, but to invite you into a new field of light. Behind you are chains that have been removed. Before you is a road opening. Walk forward with gratitude, with purity restored to you, with faith that I love you more deeply than all your mistakes and forgive you more fully than anything you ever dared to ask. I have not only saved you from what is past, I am also leading you into the goodness that is coming.